a nut that fit that bolt. And then I found another nut, matched that one, and a bolt. But the bolt was 5 inches too long and the tread only went up so far, so you could snuggle it up. Well, in Detroit, it's like part of the culture. You drink beer while you're driving. That's all, everybody does this. You drink beer while you're driving, and you throw the beer cans out the window. In those days, they have a full top thing, a little ring, come loose. You throw that away first, like a ring to a hand grenade, and then you drink, and and then the can goes. I started looking around the floor, the street, the side of the street, like a jungle floor, and there was, hundreds of these rings around there, so I started scooping them up and jamming them onto this bolt until I got enough and I could snuggle up my water pump in the car with that bolt. I started the car up, took off, just like that. In fact, I sold that car with all those rings still attached. It was that good of a repair job. I was really proud. I worked also in Detroit, in the tough part of Detroit, inner city Detroit, in a shoe store. I sold shoes for a while. And it was really, you looked out there, and you looked out on the streets, and you saw these tough-looking Canadians walking around. They were dressed in rags. So what was going on here? Okay, so the Canadians would come, Windsor, a lot of people don't know you can see Canada from Detroit. So they'd come across the river, they'd be wearing rags, and as they bought things, they would throw the rags off and put up, they might be wearing 5 or 6 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, and then they don't have to do when they go back. So you always can tell, Canadian, because they come waddling into your shoe store. Usually the shoes are the last thing they were looking for. And I had a little thing that I would do. I'd pick up this cardboard box, and some of them were repeat customers. They knew the procedure. And they would just kick off whatever they were wearing as an excuse for a shoe into the cardboard box up into the air, and I'd catch it. It was a little color so they'd remember the shoe store. Put it down. Now, we had a bonus rack over here of shoes. For the shoe salesman, if you sold off that rack, you get a bonus of like $1 to $5, depending on how awful the shoe was. And some of them were like size 8 and size 9 pair. They might be square shoes, warm shoes with no heels, god-awful shoes. There was one pair that was kind of cool but really impossible to sell. It was a quadruple A synthetic alligator point pair of shoes for me. And the trouble was, it was really thin, but the point came up on the end. Now, points were popular, points, but these points came up, and so like Scheherazade or something, if you wore it, was pretty bizarre. Well, I looked over there, and this Canadian's like fondling a shoe. Nice shoe. Would you like to try that on? It's the only pair we have in the store. Yes, I would. And I tried to get it on his foot. He says, he had a narrow foot, but not quadruple A. And he says, it's a little tight. He says, I can take care of that. So I ran down into the dungeon. Now the dungeon was below the shoe store, real old building, and the dungeon was, I think it used to be a speakeasy or something. It was god-awful down there. But we had a banister and a mat, and I'd bang on the shoe and stretch it. Now, you didn't know how long the shoe would stay stretched, because it suddenly, any time, it snapped back into its original size after you stretched it. So you had to run up to your customer really fast, get it up there before it snapped back, and get it on his foot. And oh yeah, it's okay. And then he'd take off, and I was hoping that, he got across the border before it snapped back. And, Tarzan probably, the ethics there, kind of questionable. But, I was working with what I had around me, I went, speaking of that dungeon down below, that was like Cockroach City. It was, they were the 3 and 4 inchers. Some of them could fly. And you had to go down there because that's where the bathroom was. You had a pedestal, not a pedestal, you had like platforms, a little stage. It was a toilet. And then next to the toilet, you had like a roll of toilet paper and a rubber bowl. And over, you look over and you see the cockroaches are all doing their business, like, whatever business cockroaches do. It's like a little cockroach city, like little cockroach cafes, and I think they had like rights of way, of cockroaches. So I just let them do their business, and I kind of walked through until I got there, and then I sat down, and I was looking at them doing their business, and all of a sudden this one cockroach comes up to me. I think he's like kind of a tough cockroach, he didn't like me being there. And he was coming right up at me, and I knew he was going to like crawl up my leg or something, I didn't want a 4-inch cockroach. And I looked, and there's like a rubber hose. That was it, the rubber hose. Wham! And he just changed direction. No animals or insects were hurt in his direction. He just changed direction. I talked to a guy who worked in elevators in this way. He'd worked like for 10 or 15 years. And you got to service an elevator every 6 months. He'd go in the shafts. There's cockroaches in there. But there was this one cockroach, which he named Joe. It was in the Penobscot building. He recognized that cockroach. It was so big, it was 5 inches. In the years that he knew that cockroach, it didn't grow much, but 5 inches. I think that's as big as they get. And another reason he could identify this cockroach is because it had a scar on its wing. Now he told me he thinks the cockroach got into a fight with a raccoon or a possum, and took a scar on its wing during the fight. And so, he could recognize this cockroach. And as he was, going on top of the elevator in the shaft, they would like nod at each other professionally.